So firstly, in terms of the number of apprenticeships, 150,000. NHS England is, by no doubt, one of the largest providers of apprenticeship programs within the country. It's fully embraced apprenticeships in terms of its delivery. Talk to us about these 150,000. What's the makeup of that? What does that look like? And how does it work in such a large, esteemed, respected organisation?
So, 150,000 sounds like a huge amount, but compared to the entire workforce, which is 1.3 million, it's still a small percentage. So we've still got a lot of work to do. It hasn't been without its challenges. When I first started, going around to trust to tell them about the levy and, that it wasn't optional and that they would be paying into this account. We had some challenging conversations in the early days, primarily because I could understand it, but CEOs thought, well, this is money that's going to be taken away from frontline services. But we got over that, and we actually said, embrace the positives. This is the first time that you've got a ring-fenced pot of money to spend on staff development, and that's attracting new recruits but also upskilling the workforce. And once we got that message out, I think it's really, really grown. It is still challenging in terms of we're massively under-resourced, and we want to make sure that apprentices have a quality learning experience. So that comes down to kind of picking the right training providers and universities to work with, but also making sure that there's enough kind of mentorship and buddying in the workplace. We didn't close through the pandemic. We were actually busier than ever, and that was really interesting because the knee-jerk reaction was, we're going to pause the learning, and we had to push back and say, actually, these apprentices on the front line are going to get off-the-job experience like no one's ever experienced before, and actually it's just work with the providers to make sure we can keep them on programme. So, it was a bit of a worry in terms of, some of the nurses that basically we worked with IFA to get them an exemption from their EPA so they could get their PINs and go straight into the workforce. And, hearing some of the horror stories coming out, I did kind of feel responsible. But, when we did debrief with them and talk to them, they knew the impact that they were making and they were glad to do so. And I think, for me as well, from those first apprentices that we did at BHRUT, they then progressed on to be the first cohort of registered nurses. And, meeting those, it was 9 women, 1 man, but meeting those 10 apprentices was phenomenal because they were talking about, the confidence it had given them. They were all local, and so it was a case of, their employer had invested in them, so that was going to help with retention. So, I think we've got some really great case studies of the power of apprenticeships and how it is helping kind of change the culture in the NHS.
Canny Conversation Podcast Series 5 by Safaraz Ali.